some soccer!
Oh my God, I hate when it comes up with that camera angle. Good evening, everybody. Thank you all so much for joining us, you cheeky little monkeys, on a Sunday evening. It's a bank holiday weekend. I'm joined by Mike, Bruce, and myself, all of who can give you expert analysis on at least 25 minutes of football that we're going to spin out to an hour, because everything that preluded it was an absolute shit show. But that's not the whole story. We'll talk about everything. Mike, pleasure to see you. Still in your office, working hard. How is everything your end?
Hardly working, mate. Yeah, I'm good. You?
Yeah, not too bad, thank you. Bruce recovered. Didn't even see him after the first half. He'd gone. He was off. How was the trip back home?
Was I? I thought I saw the second half.
I didn't see you.
It was all right, mate. I had a banging kebab, which was the highlight of the day.
I couldn't find anything to eat, and that's another story.
Very, very tasty kebab house or kebab shop that was recommended next to Cannons Park Station. So it was.
Is that the one near the station that everyone's talking about?
Yeah. It was absolutely. The only problem was that after a few beers, I thought it'd be a good idea to, when he said, "Do you want chili or garlic?" or chili, I had both, and it was just like sort of I ate it in the car.
The people in the car must have fucking loved you.
I ate it in the car on the way home, and I was like, I'd have one bite that was all right, and then the next bite, I'd have about half a bottle of lager with it. But yeah, it was good, thank you.
I just can't believe a man that goes and does that to the poor sods who've got to now spend 4.5 hours with you in a car. That's awful.
And I was in the front.
Yeah, I feel sorry for anyone who's downwind. Look, we want your thoughts. We want your positions to come in forward to it. Stephen McTay says he's looking forward to a positive pod tonight. Well, Stephen, as you are resting in Italy, you are one lucky fellow, because you didn't have to watch what was probably the worst 45 minutes of football this season. And Paul Hurst, like ourselves, I'm presuming, I wasn't too happy about it. However wonderful the last few minutes, as you can tell by my voice, were. Bruce, I was sat with Mike, so I get his thoughts. What was your thoughts on the game as a whole, and sort of fill Stephen in?
In the first half, it looked like the players that were playing had never played together in their life. There were some people they couldn't string three passes together, or two passes, let alone three. We just looked completely sort of devoid of any sort of idea or plan. Taylor was isolated. He was up front on his own, and I think Hursty said that afterwards, didn't he? But it was just a really, really strange performance. We didn't look like. But then, having said that, he made changes, didn't he? Some enforced some of them, and we sort of did the same thing at Kings Lynn, didn't we? And got away with it. We made a few changes that day, but yeah, we certainly didn't look fluent. It was a difficult watch, and God knows what was going on with that waterfall header and the Crocombe thing. There was no forward anywhere near them. It was just a brilliant diving header from Waterfall.
It really was. I mean, it was. Unfortunately, we all have our own Mr. Positivity to blame for that. Mr. Tom Sargent, we were sat in the pub before, and goes, "Do you know what? I don't even think we've scored an own goal this season." And so, if there's anybody you want to thank for it, thank the newly fathered Mr. Sargent, who has brought that to it. Bruce, can you remember another own goal for the season so far?
No, we had a few last year, didn't we?
We certainly did.
Off people's arse cheeks and stuff. I think Tom's in the doghouse anyway, and he doesn't need our wrath. It sounds like he's left the house in a mess, and the family are coming home to it. So I think he might be in trouble anyway. So I think anything you can throw at him will be minimal.
Don't drop him at it. He might have all been able to put everything expertly under a rug.
Weren't they travelling home together though?
Yeah, well, he might have done it before they left.
I'm just going to nip in, love. You just take your time.
You sort the bags out. I'll come in 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Mike, what were your thoughts? And then I can have a crack.
Yeah, I thought the first half was just very slow and much of a muchness, not really anything in it. Looked like hard pitch. Don't know if that had anything to had anything to do with it. I think from Hurst's comments after the game, I think he's right where he may have got it slightly wrong in the first half with only having Taylor up there as a focal point. Looked like their centre halves could deal with him on their own quite easily, and then we weren't getting any second balls in the final third. But credit to him, he changed it round at half time. I know Alex will love a half time substitution. And that
Any
pretty much turned it.
Is good.
Yeah, that pretty much turned it around. I think the own goal was completely against the run of play. I think it was only one team in it the second half. We deserved a point, probably deserved more, but happy with a point away from home at this stage of the season, especially now that it keeps that gap to Dagenham at 4 points. So.
Well, it does till now. They're going to play on Monday, I believe, and we don't. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens. I've got to be honest. It was another I think a guy called CJ put up a list. Chris put up a list of sort of the points we've taken inside the M25 this season, and it has been relegation form. There is a big problem with this team and this club when it play in so-called lesser opposition. We just don't seem to have the right mindset, and they look like they're going to go out quite patronisingly and just win it. We saw it at Maidenhead, saw it at Weymouth, we saw it at Kings Lynn, we saw it at Bromley, we saw it at Wealdstone, we saw it at Aldershot. Too many times these players, what iteration it may be, go out and don't put the hard yards in and simply just don't run. I saw very little effort from any of the players in the first half. Second half, I can't fault them. They were brilliant. They came out. They'd obviously been shoved a rocket up their arse, and were out sort of 10 minutes before the halftime whistle. But to the start of the second half. But before that, my God, they were god awful. And there's a lot of players that went hiding. Holohan went hiding. We'll go on to Joey Jones in a minute as well. None of them. I thought Taylor had a poor game. I thought both. It was nice to see Sousa back, and it was good to see Scannell, but I think they went inside too often. How many times yesterday did you guys count Scannell cutting in and then cutting in again, then cutting in again? And before he knew it, it was almost on the other wing, wasn't he? I saw that 4 or 5 times, wasn't it?
He did run across. He did run across the. Like, I know what you mean. I certainly noticed in the second half. Sort of ran across the pitch looking for options, didn't he?
Yeah.
And he didn't see anything that spoke to his. But I'm not going to be. I think Mike sounds the same. I'm not going to be too negative about this one. And you're right. I think in the last sort of we up until 3 or 4 big games ago, our form against the top teams was really poor. But going into the playoffs, like you say, we've beaten Notts County, we've beaten Chesterfield. You know, we look. I'm like you. I'm happier seeing us play the better teams, and we're going to be playing the better teams. So I'm not too concerned about yesterday. Really, in isolation, it still concerns me whether we're going to score enough goals to get promoted. But yeah, I can take that as long as we're back on it next Saturday. I've just been looking at the fixtures actually because people have been saying it's all closed up, hasn't it? I think there's 3 teams. We're all on 72 points. Are we now or something?
Yeah, I just don't understand when we talk about we've got Maidenhead and Eastleigh to come. Are these players going to have the mental ability to bring themselves up for that game? Because I never see them raise their game when they're playing the lesser opposition. I'm worried about our playoff position. Never mind anything else.
Well, I've just looked at that, like I say, and you're sort of seeing if anything, because I've heard people say, "Oh, Chesterfield are going to drop out," and obviously, I think Notts County are fine now because they've got good fixtures. Our fixtures are arguably the next best.
Yeah.
Chesterfield have got Wrexham.
Maybe not for us.
Yeah. Well, Chesterfield have got on paper. Chesterfield have got Wrexham, and then they are Stockport, and then they're away at Torquay, which is not an easy game. And then they finish at home to Woking. So they're gonna, they've got a couple of tricky games. One very tricky, but then below that, Dagenham, without getting too sort of statistical.
I mean, this is getting very Tom. Here's a
No,
list
it's not.
of
It's not. I'm
things.
going to rattle through it. Dagenham are away at Solihull tomorrow. Oh no, sorry, next Saturday. They are at home to Torquay tomorrow, and then they finish the season at home to Wrexham. So they've got 2 out of the 3 very tricky fixtures, and Boreham Wood.
Yeah, that's
very
enough.
similar.
We've done enough.
No,
We've done enough.
I wasn't going to go then, but Boreham Wood are very similar. So I just don't see either of those teams picking up enough points to close that that gap, which at the moment is 4 points.
I'm just really disappointed in how we play against these less teams, and honestly, that's most of the games that I see us play this season.
I think that's a tad harsh, Alex. I mean, from what you've said about playing the less teams, like, you know, on paper you should win, but let's not forget it's the National League and no team.
Yeah, but I don't
should
mind.
really beat anybody. I think when you go away to down here where we are, you're going away to a team that knows they're not going to play against you, and are wanting to sit in, frustrate you, and try and nick the odd goal. Maybe we've not been able to cope with that this season, but I think that's a little tad harsh. Honestly, I think we're going to be absolutely fine. We're going to make the playoffs with no problem, and we're going to win the playoffs. So cheer up.
I think you're being very condescending, and I don't think you're looking at it properly. I'm really worried with it. I thought Holohan, who I thought has been brilliant since he came in, was, all right, but he went missing yesterday. I was quite surprised with his performance yesterday. Afete looked fine, but Cropper, I thought I prefer Cropper because I just think that throw offers us so much. And Mike made a good point yesterday that it doesn't just give you an attacking option; it also relieves quite a lot of defensive issues. He can get that ball up the other end of the pitch, and almost just hoof it away and make what could be a bit of pressure from them to something as an option. I'd prefer him over Afete.
Can he take goal throws?
I don't know. I mean,
that'd be awesome, wouldn't it? If he could just stand behind the byline and run up to the edge of the 6-yard box and just launch one.
Well, Crocom's got a hell of a kick, but we haven't seemed to have. If this was artillery practice, I'd be slightly worried that we wouldn't be hitting anybody. They haven't seemed to have adjusted for how high Crocombe can kick the ball because it always seems to go over Taylor's head. I don't know. They need to move it back a couple of yards. Maybe their defence are just not letting them do it. I don't know. You can't be offside from a goal kick, can you?
It quite regularly seems to go over their goalkeeper's head as well, though. We seem to have a few that go sort of just straight through to their keeper, don't we? So he maybe needs to take a little bit off them, but he does look to distribute it quickly. But in defence of Holohan yesterday, I mean, he's our sort of midfielder that we want to carry the ball forward. And as Hurst has said, with the way that they lined up, he only had Taylor as an outlet. You know, who's he got in front of him? There's one player in front of him, and then he's got 2 wingers and 2 other central midfielders that are running alongside him. So it's hard for him to pick a pass. We needed 2 up front yesterday, and I think, like Hurst said, he got it wrong.
He says
that's why I'm not too concerned.
He said he had his own thoughts on that. It'd be interesting to know what they are because I thought Abrahams did a lot to help with yesterday. His energy is what is missed up front, that sort of first attacker, that first defender sort of stuff. He was really good at harrowing them and gave them a work. That their defence had a really easy first 45 minutes. They had very little to do.
Yeah, it didn't seem like there was much intensity in the first half, did it? It's very flat. Changed in the second half, and I think Abrahams was the catalyst for that. But yeah, the first half was absolutely dire. There's no excusing that. Houlihan was terrible. Most of the midfield were quite poor and slow. And it took that change to put 2 up top and give them something else to think about to get us going a little bit.
Crocombe was a bit was interesting for me, and I know I'm a big Macca fan, but I thought his positioning for the own goal wasn't great. He did that sort of thing where I think out of those 2, and granted we're at that side, so you lose your depth perspective. He could have been 10 yards away from it. I haven't seen the goal yet, but. If either of those 2 is going for that ball, I would have expected it to be Crocombe to do it. And there was another point as well in the second half where, because we were so far up, he was sort of halfway up our half, and then as the ball came to him, he then panics and runs back. So he's not offering anything. He might as well just stand in his own area. And he when he should have been braver to go out and kick the ball upfield. I don't know what anybody else thought about it. He was brilliant.
Sorry, Mike, you go.
No, you go, mate.
I was just going to say, I think that without realising, you just made a very good point there. I think it's going to look absolutely horrendous when we see it, and the fact that nobody got it on film in this day and age tells you that it wasn't a goal scoring opportunity.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, it was an absolute blunder, and Waterfall has been imperious this season and has changed all the doubters' opinions on him, me included, and he redeemed himself later on, but he'll be kicking himself with that one. But if Crocombe isn't going for that, what else is he meant to do? Because I don't even know if was there a guy up with Barnet? He must have been crossing it to someone, but I can't remember seeing anyone there.
I think there was somebody drifting in the far post. And what I saw, Crocombe had gone for it, and Waterfall just jumped in front of him. But as I say, it was the wrong end of the pitch to really get any sort of depth perspective on it. But it looked to me that either the keeper hasn't shouted for it, or Waterfall's just not listened and thought he's got to deal with it.
It certainly was. It certainly was not a glancing header, a soft header back to the goalkeeper. Was it? It was a bullet diving header. So God knows what happened.
I mean, Disley would have been impressed with it. Let's be honest, because he's the man for the bullet headers. It's an interesting one, and I don't know. I'm being very negative about it because I'm thinking of it as a whole. But the second half performance was worthy of it. All credit to Paul Hurst. When he brought Fox on, I was a bit annoyed considering you've got someone like Maguire Drew on the bench, but he was very useful in the middle of the field. I just don't. It was a nice redemption, and Hurst's interview was spot on. I couldn't disagree with any of it. He said he seemed pretty pissed off when he was being interviewed by JT.
He clapped the fans and then he walked off. He wasn't happy at all, even with a 2-2. He might sit down today and say, "Do you know what? We played crap. We weren't great, and we got a draw." A bit like I feel now. But yeah, he certainly wasn't happy at all, and I think it showed, like you say, the pace difference that Abrahams and Fox seemed to inject into the game when they came on showed the levels that all the rest of the players were playing at yesterday. But yeah, we go on. Maidenhead on Saturday. Let's see what happens.
It's well, we're not moving on because we've only done 20 minutes.
Well, no, but you know what I mean. You know what I mean.
I think with Hurst's comments, I know he touched on it a minute ago. I think when he says he's got some questions, like he thinks he's got it wrong, but he's got some questions. I think, well, if you set up wrong tactically or you're playing a better opposition, there's no excuse for I want to say lack of effort, but I don't mean lack of effort. I mean like lack of intensity. There's no excuse for that. You run hard and you try and speed the game up and make an impact in it. And I think that's what he's referring to. First half, it just was so slow. Nobody was busting a gut to do anything. And I think that's what he's talking about. And I wouldn't be impressed with that either.
I just hope Abrahams takes a lot from that performance, because there was an opportunity after about sort of 75 minutes or so. It might have been even later because there was a lot packed into those sort of last 5-10 minutes. But when he had an opportunity, the ball landed to him and he was sort of in line with where we were. So at the edge of the box, coming in at a 45-degree angle at the goal. Anyone with a sort of an ounce of confidence would have taken a step in front and gone, but he actually squared it to Scannell. He had the opportunity to take the shot and he didn't. And that doesn't just seem his fault. It seems everybody is very scared to have a go and have a crack, and everybody's looking for that one additional pass, like the killer pass that will make it to put you through, when in all honesty, those sort of games, as was the equaliser, get it, Tom will love it, get it in the mixer and it will go off somebody's arse and it will go in. I don't know what you guys feel about that, but it just feels like we were very nervous to do anything like that.
Yeah, I think I said to you at the time, I think Abrahams with a bit more confidence would have taken a couple more steps and properly driven at the near post and got a shot off. You can see that he's thinking, well, he's not confident enough to do it, so he squared it to Scannell. But hopefully he'll take a lot from that. He's good second half, deserved a goal, to be fair.
What did you make of it, Bruce? In sort of your end, you were in the middle of it all, in the sort of inflatable chaos.
It was quite quiet. We were at the far. If you sat in the stand, we were at the far left-hand side. It was gorgeous, sat in the sun. I mean, I'd had a few beers and we'd had a breakfast on the way. It was. I was a bit like the players, really. I was just sort of leant on the barrier in front of me, just chilling in the sun oh shit, we're a goal down. I mean, we could have been a goal down in the first 2 or 3 minutes, couldn't we? That guy had that. God knows how he missed from there. If that had been one of our strikers, we'd have still been ranting about that 20 minutes in. It was horrendous. He had an open goal from about 4 yards out, and he somehow managed to skew it wide when it was easier to score. But yeah, it was no, it was good. I mean, the atmosphere was good, and I know you tweeted that you'd heard booing, but there certainly wasn't any booing. There was a few disgruntled voices where we were, but I didn't hear booing that I would have mentioned or sort of raised. I thought the fans, like us, everyone seemed there for a party, and a little bit like the players really, and they didn't seem too distraught that we were a goal or two down. It was a bit of a strange atmosphere, and the fans kept singing, which was good, but it was more of a party atmosphere, and maybe the players got caught up in, came out and saw all the inflatables and the town fans bouncing around, and it was just like, oh, we're just going to turn up and win this one. I don't know, but it was it was an odd performance.
There was definitely booing our end. We were at the far side nearest towards the sort of where the players come out. It wasn't, obviously it can't have been a large amount of people if you didn't hear it, but it was certainly audible. It's just a bit odd. Like it was a pretty shit performance, and we're all sort of bashing it now, but at the time, like, you needed the singing, and there is something to be said for. We were talking about it. So like the pitch invasion and stuff. I don't mind it, and I don't really want to see one of our fans squaring up to one of their centre halves, which is what I saw. Which was, I mean, it's one of those where, as a professional, you don't want to see it. It is quite funny. But Lloyd Griffiths was right, and from reports that we've heard as well, like some of the players were annoyed because there's someone in our fan base who's got a net fetish. Like, keep that sexy shit at home. Like, if you've got a kink for it, leave it at home. It happened at Altrincham. I think it happened at another game, and it happened yesterday as well. And whoever broke that net could have cost us 2 points yesterday, because it was a point in which you take the momentum out of the game, and they got 7 minutes. Barnet were time wasting from half an hour in, and you took all the momentum out of the game. You allowed them to have a breather. You allowed them to sort of regroup and recompose themselves, and you gave them the opportunity. So whoever did that, you were a prize-winning pillock. I don't know if anybody else has got anything to say on that.
Yeah, there's no need to break the net. I mean, I get that people have had a few beers and they're a bit excited, and a few of them end up on the pitch. That's up to them. It's not something I would do, but it's up to them if that's the way that they choose to celebrate. They take the risks with doing that, don't they? That that they're going to get hoiked out. But yeah, I agree. It certainly did slow things down. It certainly did slow things down. But then, having said that, though, if we hadn't have had that delay, we scored in the 94th minute. We wouldn't have. It was the whole time added on was all a bit weird. It was a bit. I didn't realise it was that late that we scored the equaliser, and they put up 7 minutes, and then we played 7 minutes after the game didn't finish till 2 minutes past 5. I can't remember a game finishing that late ever for us that didn't have extra time or anything like that. You get used to finish at 20 to 5 years ago, and we had another 20 odd minutes after that. I know you have 15 minutes for half time now, but God, there was some. But like you say, there were injuries, weren't there? There were time wasting. I think there was 4 minutes in the first half, which is about 3 minutes more than the normal one, isn't it?
There's something with the referees in the National League. They don't punish time wasting, and it's really shit to see. Their goalkeeper should have been booked in the first half for it, just taking his time, ambling around, and the ref thought it was all a big joke. I saw him laughing about it in front of the away fans. Like, get a grip. Like, it's pretty pathetic. And but it just yeah, I don't mind the pitch invading. You can get on. And by the time the ball's back, most people are back over the fence and there's not an issue. But if you're fucking up the net, then you're a twat. Mike.
I mean, yeah, I've yet to work it out, but I think we've definitely lost 2, maybe 3 minutes from that, because we scored just before. I think it said the 87th on the BBC, and straight after the break, 7 minute goes up and we play that. And I can understand people get excited. You've just scored a late equaliser. But it just killed all of the momentum out of the game, and you got 4 minutes of just waiting around when we could have been piling on some more pressure. And I think I spoke to Alex about this. I don't know if it's true, but when you look when we do things like that, you then have to then sort of marry that against sometimes when we're over policed or there's more stewarding. You know, if you've got fans running on the pitch squaring up to players, can't really have an argument when you've got too many stewards or too much police. In my view, I might be wrong, but
we scored in the
fair point.
18th. Yeah, we scored in the 89th minute. So I think we did lose a couple of minutes out of it as well. But I mean, the atmosphere itself was great, and we got to take a bit of it on the chin because we were the ones that decided to bring inflatables. And there was a point in which we'd scored the equaliser, and then Twats kept throwing the inflatables back on the pitch, and their goalkeeper was absolutely loving it because all he needed to do was just go, I can't get on with it. There's an inflatable on the pitch. I'm going to have to go and flatten that out.
I think they were hoping for a Sunderland, weren't they?
Yeah,
remember that
absolutely.
beach ball at Sunderland.
Zimmer frame assisted, wasn't it, Bruce? It was a Zimmer frame that got on.
Yeah,
was it? All right.
Paul Pittman's winner at the third goal when we took the inflatables before. But I thought the inflatables were good. It was good fun. I do love watching stewards run around trying to get inflatables off people. That's entertaining. It was good fun, and the guy who got a big cheer when he wrestled a banana off a steward and
he was obsessed with grabbing them, wasn't he?
And threw it back into the fans. Yeah, a couple of their stewards got a bit overzealous with the inflatables, and we were down the front and there was balls were just coming down. I was just booting them back up into the stand just before kickoff, and there were, can you get to your seats, please? Can you get to your seats? And then when we scored that equaliser, half the stand was standing at the front and they didn't care. They didn't do anything. I
just hope there was none of the stewards came out of it with any serious injuries. Obviously, last time round with inflatables, there was one steward that was obviously
critical,
too injured. Yeah, critical, and had to be taken to the Royal Free. So hopefully, none of that was the issue yesterday.
No,
got a bit of leg action there, Bruce.
There seemed to be, the old Nobly Knee competition. They were. No, apparently all the stewards are in. They've asked them, the stewards, the chief steward, and they're all in good health. A bit like the Hursty question. Yeah, they've all come through the game unscathed, and they'll be good to go again next home game. But they probably won't need half as many next time.
Yeah, absolutely. It's nice to do. I don't mind. It's Barnet. Look, we've had a problem with like the atmosphere and stuff down here, and it was a far better. And I don't think if it wasn't for that atmosphere, I don't think we'd have got that equaliser. I think it'd have just petered out to a sort of 2-0, 2-1 defeat. So it was nice that it was, all done and all sorted. Some of the thoughts on yesterday. 80 minutes of bang average football, says Mark Middleton, followed by 17 minutes of really giving it a go. Okay, I was trying to work out the minutes. Balthazar Bullet said Scannell needs a new contract. Abraham deserves a start. Will Jones get better with games? A lot of people coming in saying we need to talk about Joey Jones. I haven't seen him enough to sort of throw him to the wolves or do anything, but to be pulled off at the first half would suggest Paul Hurst was not happy with what he performed. Bruce, you probably see him more than anyone on this show. What would you say about his performances so far?
I've not really noticed him.
I mean, I'll be honest. That's the same as yesterday.
Yeah, that may be. I know not everybody. We didn't miss Stacey Caldicott, did we? Until he'd gone. Players like that. Sometimes, if you've got a player that does some of the hard work, it goes unnoticed. He's not a. It's a bit like the Clifton, isn't it? With the work and the energy that he puts in, he doesn't create a lot of goals, and he scored a few this season. But yeah, he. I've not really noticed him. I wouldn't complain if you brought in Fox and Abraham's next game. And I know we moan about the Clifton thing and we want to have two wingers, but considering we played two wingers yesterday, we didn't get enough balls into the box, quality balls. I didn't really think. I thought Sousa looked like he hadn't played for quite a long time. He's still good at what he was good at before, which is the running at people, but the final product wasn't always there. But I don't think we had enough bodies in the box yesterday. I think we just set up wrong. But yeah, Jones, I would bring Fox back in if he's fit now, and I'd try and get another player closer to Taylor, and that would probably be Abrahams, and with Manny on the bench to bring on.
Yeah, I think. Well, Abraham was knocking them on for Taylor at one point yesterday, so you never know. They might be able to just switch it up a little bit. But I think that seems to be the consensus among people in terms of Joey Jones. Dagenham and Redbridge fans are absolutely loving it. Apparently, he was their highest wage billed player, so they're loving that he's been gone. But hopefully he'll redeem himself at some point. Stephen McDade says Jones needs a rest for me. I think Smith should get a mention. Being the reassurance figure and pace that Waterfield needs to next to him. I mean, his finish was outstanding, wasn't it? Cool, calm, collected. My God, if he could bottle that and let Enrico Souza drink it, we might be able to have a half-decent player on our hands with him, wouldn't we? Just me.
I didn't see it.
Oh, you should have got out of the bar.
I was in the toilet.
You can't call the bar that.
Well, to be fair, the toilet looked like it was the toilet facilities were
they were disgusting, weren't they?
They weren't very good. They cope with the toilets and the number of fans there, like they did with the bar. I mean, I hope we can come on to that because they encourage us.
Well, let's do it now.
Well, they encouraged us all to go and use it, and then they couldn't cope with the numbers that were there. People waiting half an hour for a pint. It was absolutely ridiculous. Why places like that do not just do like they do at the cricket? You know, you've got 2 or 3 different things on draft. Pull 50 pints of each before the half time and just serve people. Somebody pulling and somebody serving. It's not rocket science, and they just were too slow yesterday. It was ridiculous. It literally half an hour to get a pint.
I don't know what was on tap either, but that lager was absolute rank. I have no idea what it was, but it was disgusting. And the food as well. I was like, there was like 2 guys serving the whole thing, and there's nothing within. Well, I know there was that kebab shop, but there's nothing within 10 minutes of the ground. So you commit, you get out of Cannons Park, go start walking down. There's nothing else on the way. It was just, it was a bit of a shit show, which is a shame because it could be a really decent facility. And the toilets, no damage from us. I know there was a couple of Barnet fans acting pathetically, if I'm being entirely honest, saying that the damage, there was no damage. It was just, it couldn't take it. It couldn't take it. It was a bit like
no, I agree. It was just
our defence first half.
It was you were, if you went after half time, you were knee deep in other people's piss. Some bird I think a bird just flew into the window.
What was her name?
I don't know, but she's on the floor outside now. I'm sure somebody will come past and pick her up.
Yeah, exactly. Some of the other thoughts were Rob S&P says, I don't particularly like singling out players, but it does seem a recent acquisition has perhaps upset the balance in midfield. Ollie Hodson says, I thought we were very poor and getting overrun far too easily in the middle up until Fox came on. Sousa kind of looked good. Taylor played well, but had no one around him in the first half. What else have we got from some of the people who've gone on the DN35 community thing on Twitter? Actually, they're all the ones on there. So I'll have a look for the other tweet as well while you guys are thinking about it. What was your other? Is there anything else you want to discuss from the game yesterday?
I thought our numbers were brilliant again. I think we take it for granted a lot of the time, the numbers that we travel in. I'm just thinking about what you said about the stand or the atmosphere. I think the inflatables helped. I think Barnet, amongst our fans, has got a good reputation for a day out. The southern, the exiles like it. It seems to be one that we travel in decent numbers from back home up north as well. And to be fair, town fans come from all parts of the country, don't they, when you speak to them? But I do think the fact that we were in a decent stand probably helped. A lot of the places, probably the exception of Aldershot, which has got a decent sort of stand, and we had decent numbers that day. A lot of the other places we've talked about are either open terraces with 2 or 3 steps, or we're all spread out. There's 800 of us, but we're around 3 sides of the ground. I think it helped. We all had a good view yesterday, and people had had a few beers as well.
I know we've done an interview with Andrew and Jason and Debbie this week and talking about Blundell Park and not moving away. And you can always go back and download it. It's on Apple Podcasts and it's on anywhere else you get your podcasts, or it's also on Twitter and Facebook and YouTube. But other than that, they talked about it, and I wouldn't mind a stand like that. Knock down the Osman, knock down the Pony, put one of those either side. I'd be absolutely fine with it. I think, and wrap it round. It'd be great.
Yeah, with corners. I don't like a stand that sits on its own.
No, I agree. Yeah, and John Lewis says the steepness of it is really good. I never thought I'd like a steep stand. I thought I'd quite like a lower rake of a stand, but it gives you a better view, and it does feel like you're on top of them all, doesn't it?
He's on my calendar this month, John Lewis.
Is he?
The curse of the calendar strikes again. McAtee was last month, and I was boasting about how well how he'd broken the curse, and then he got broken himself. And now we've got Lenny, and he's banging him in for York, isn't he?
Bring him home.
Bring him ready for the playoffs.
Do not bring him home. My God. Oh, Christ. Mike, I don't know if you've got to say anything. I'm just pulling up the tweets.
I'm just going to say the steepness of the stand is fine unless you're fat like me and you've got to go up and down it a couple of times. Then it's no good.
Yeah, just get a little slide. You'll be fine.
Jesus.
Matt in Woolwich says Hurst now knows who he can count on. I think Fox and Abrahams have made themselves undroppable, at least until McAtee's back. Do we play Taylor and Abrahams in a simple 4-4-2? Should be enough to get points needed in the last 3 games. And Jim Booker came off the back of this parish saying Scannell and JMD on the wings and Harry and Houlihan or Fox in the middle with the usual back 5. Hart said, I was disappointed not to see Fox and Abrahams start. Great mentality from the players once again, though, to get something from the game. I also was disappointed to be punched twice in the back by one of our disabled supporters as I accidentally stood in his way. So, I mean, okay, fine. You deserved it. Get out of their way. You don't. I need
to apologize. I need to apologize as well, actually, because I, for some unknown reason, about 10 minutes from time, they closed the tunnel at the end where we were. So at the left-hand side, there was only one tunnel, which was down your end, and I walked down there desperate for the loo, and I couldn't find the gents. I could just see the ladies, so I did nip in the disabled because nobody ever uses them, do they? And there was a knock at the door while I was in there, and then I had to open the door and apologise to this guy in a wheelchair. So I am sorry that I was taking up his facilities.
But I mean, if you're stood in front of the disabled fans, then that's your own fault, Hearts. Get out their way. Christ's sake, have a bit of empathy, my friend. Mike, what were you going to say?
Yeah, just a change of subject. Just a question that's come to me. You know, we only get 5 subs, and now we're coming towards the end of the season.
Are we getting 5 subs next season? We are, aren't we?
Not in the Football League. We'll have 7. So
okay. Yeah. What were you going to say?
So if Afete is playing at right back, do you think it's always worth now at the end of the season just keeping Cropper on the bench over Pearson as a centre half? Because if you're going into the playoffs and you're 1-0 down in the last couple of minutes, that's a bit of a weapon. So just wondered if that's a consideration with only having the 5 subs.
I think if Cropper starts, then you have Pearson on, and I think if Afete starts, you have Cropper on the bench. And Hurst said himself it was sort of a toss-up, didn't he? Bruce saying in the interviews it was a bit of a toss-up between having him or Pearson on the bench, and I love Pearson, and he was there yesterday, but it was like I don't mind him. Cropper. I think Cropper should start. I think he's an okay right back, but he offers more of an attacking threat than Afete does, simply down to the throws. I don't know what you think about it, Bruce.
So your favourite 2 then, Amos and Afete?
Yeah. Well, my favourite is Cropper and Amos.
Cropper and Amos, right? Okay.
Just because of the throws, it's so weird. I don't know what everybody who's listening like. How much better percentage-wise would you say Afete is to Cropper? I think Afete is a better player, but I don't think in total when you take in the throws, I think you'd want Cropper on the pitch.
Sorry, Mike, one.
No, I was just mumbling.
Because that's more than a long throw. I mean, I was watching some football today, and they're saying, Holgate's got a long throw. No, he hasn't. Cropper's got a long throw. I've never seen a throw go that far live.
Well, did you see us all? They all lined up in the second half. They suddenly had a long throw weapon, didn't they, on the far right hand side? And it was like, they've got a long throw as well. And he threw it, and it just about reached the edge of our 18-yard box. And like you say, some of them ones that he was throwing them too far, not too far, but it was pinging them to the back post yesterday. It was unbelievable.
I do agree with John Lewis and Ollie. I think Afete is the better player and he offers an attacking threat, but he doesn't offer the same. You're going to get more opportunities to attack with a throw-in than you are with Afete overlapping and putting it in. Because I don't think Afete overlaps that often. And in fact, I don't think either thingy or both of them were done yesterday. Yeah, he did do a foul throw when they first came on, as did they. It was a bit under rates for a time, I got to admit. I saw their Barnet fans were saying that we should have had a guy sent off. I'm not sure. It was for the counter attack late on in the game, and I think Smith took him down. Am I right?
Nah, yeah, Waterfall was covering.
But I think they should have had a man sent off when Taylor turned their bloke and was through, only to be dragged down. I don't know if anybody else saw that.
I did see the incident, but again, it was.
Did you watch any of the second half?
Yeah,
were you still in the queue for the beer?
Yeah. I was just. That was my pre. I was queuing for my pre-match pint. No, but I did see. I couldn't tell how far through he was, but yeah, he was. It was a definite. No, I don't want to see red card. I don't want to see red cards unless something's terrible.
I want to see it done. If he's through, he's done. I want him off. I want him off, flogged and beaten in the streets of Grimsby. Kelly Hemshall says substitutes changed the game, in my opinion. Poor first half, but we played like we did in the 10-15 minutes without McAtee, then we went far wrong. Jack Brighton says wasn't there, but have no idea how Jones starts ahead of Fox. Okay. Little Moss says disappointed to see people getting on Paulhurst's case. I didn't think they were they? I mean, point me in the direction if they were. When he makes changes to a winning team, he's probably trying to balance securing playoffs and also making sure we have a strong 11, free of unnecessary injuries. I think the pitch was an absolute pudding, and given what happened at Kings Lynn with McAtee, I would rather not risk a few players and give everybody a bit of a go. I don't know what you guys thought, but the pitch did not help yesterday, and their manager said the same as well.
There was a rabbit hole in front of us.
Yeah.
Seriously, there was a massive just off the pitch. It looked like the foxes had been digging. It was yeah. The pitch looked when you got down. I watched for the last 10 minutes, just leant against the barrier at the front, and the pitch was awful. The goal mouths, it was so dry.
It was ploggers, wasn't it?
So dry and dusty. Yeah, they've obviously not got the modern technologies at the Hive like we have with our sprinkler system.
They do have sprinklers. Mike was making comments of it yesterday, telling me the reason that they sprinkled it was because a couple of our players slipped over 3 or 4 times in the second half, which they did. Mark Parker says Joey Jones isn't a footballer. Poor pitch, poor game. Hurst changed the game with the introductions of Abrahams and Fox. Missed of the season from them in the first half. Atmosphere was great in the last 15 minutes. The former minority of town idiots is now a concerning percentage, make it harder to be amongst it. It's a shame, but I hope it's just a bit of a flash in the pan and people are not used to going to football and they need to work out how to behave again.
I think, is he talking about the ones that went on the pitch, or is he talking about like the behaviour in the concourse and things like that?
I don't know. He's only got 240 characters.
Yeah, because I think there's a fine line between
boisterous and boys will be boy. Yeah,
there's a fine line between creating a party atmosphere, which we're all reveling in, and going a little bit further than that. And if you take those people out, then you maybe don't generate the same atmosphere as well during the rest of the game, in my opinion. So I'm not saying it's right, but it maybe that's why we've had some of the atmospheres that we've had at some of the other games, because the ones that are on the edge aren't always there.
I was gonna go down at half time and remove our flag to see if that was going to take any of the curse away, but I thought it'd be a bit too much me, just being a prick, just take it down. But it can stay now that we got a point at least. So it'll be at Eastleigh. Don't you worry, boys and girls. It's going to see us through to the playoffs. I don't know, Bruce. It's one of these things, and you're absolutely right. But I think sometimes, as fans ourselves, when it's our mates and people we know, sometimes we just need to tell them not to be dickheads and just like, lad, fucking sit down, stop being a twat.
I think it just reflects. You get you pick 1,300 people out of a group, and you go out on a Saturday night, and it's the same thing, isn't it? You go out in your town or you go out in our town, and there's
you don't get it in Guildford, darling.
Yeah, right. But you'll walk past a fight outside a pub in the street, and I'm not saying that nobody was fighting yesterday, but it's the same thing, isn't it? It's look at them, them idiots, and it's most people you notice. I think you notice the ones that are a bit like people on social media. If someone criticizes you, you notice the person that's criticised you more than you would notice the 5 people that have praised you in the past. It's just the way that, you know, these things stand out, and that's what you remember. And like I say, I think it's borderline. We don't want to discuss. I think do you remember when the atmosphere, going back a few years, suddenly about sort of probably the season before we got promoted from the conference last time, or a couple of seasons before, there was a group of youngsters, weren't there, that were sort of on the edge, but the atmosphere, especially at a lot of the games that you would have been at down south, it changed. It changed overnight, and it became the in thing for a group of sort of, you know, probably an extra 200 sort of 15 to 18-year-olds, 19-year-olds, and we were bouncing everywhere we went, and the atmosphere was brilliant.
Now, isn't it?
And the old regime couldn't ban them and get rid of them quick enough. You know, and I think you need to, you know, sort of embrace that. And a lot of them apparently don't go anymore. And like I say, we had a fabulous atmosphere that came, and I think we're still taking the numbers that we take on the back of what a lot of them youngsters did those years ago, in improving the atmosphere.
Yeah, absolutely. It's interesting. It's definitely worth. I don't know. It's good, isn't it? I don't mind. It's nice to have a little bit of an atmosphere, at least, I guess, because it's certainly dull without it. I mean, looking to the next game, what are your thoughts? Where do you think we're going to sit? As Bruce said, we're sort of now, you know, bunching up in the middle. What do you think is going to hold out? We're going to be playing Maidenhead at home, Boreham Wood at home. It's a shame we don't have the game tomorrow, because it'd have been nice to sort of turn this one around pretty quickly. But it's an opportunity to reflect on it, I guess. And Maidenhead will have a game. What are we expecting from the game against the blokes from Berkshire?
I fancy we'll take 3 points from that. I think in the grand scheme of things, I think we'll finish 5th. I think we'll probably take 4 points from what we've got left. I don't think other teams will do much either. It's very funny stage of the season. So I think 4 points from our last 3, probably enough to get us that 5th place.
Well, we're currently 2nd in the form table. Maidenhead aren't doing too bad. They haven't lost a game in 5. So they might, you know, offer up some stiffer competition than we expect. Maybe that's a good thing. What are your thoughts, Bruce?
I think it'll pretty much stay as it is now. I mean, it's really interesting to see what happens at the top. Obviously, it's still Stockport's to lose, but they're
choking, aren't they?
They're saying their form's not good since they lost to us. But I think the positions, Notts County's fixtures, I think we'll do quite well, Mike, in our last few, but I don't know that we're going to have a look. What's the goal difference like? Is that going to come into it? Goal difference, 23-24. Yeah, it could come down to goal difference.
21 with Chesterfield.
Us and Notts County, because Notts County have got Dover at home, and they've got Altrincham at home, and then they go to Maidenhead, which we know from, if they're still playing, if they're still trying at that stage of the season, a lot of the big clubs have come unstuck. And our point that we got down there that we criticised early in the season doesn't look so bad when you see what others have done down there. But so their running's pretty easy. I think the shape's nearly done now. It'd be lovely to finish above Notts County, because obviously we'd have them at home then, wouldn't we?
Yeah, I think being at home would be really useful. And then I know we've done this. Who would we play? I'm so sorry. Who would we play after that? Would we play Halifax or would we play Wrexham? Someone please tell us on the.
I'm assuming.
Listening in.
I don't know that. I've not looked closely, but you would think that third place. Sorry, you'd think that second place Wrexham, as it stands at the moment, would play the 2 teams that came from, on average, further down. So you would think they would play 5th or 6th, and then I don't know. No, actually, I don't know. I'm just bullshitting. I don't know.
None of us know.
Mike, you go for it. It sounded good at first.
I'm looking to see if I saved it from last time. I have no idea. We chatted about it last week, didn't we?
Badly.
Yeah. And I can't remember. I just got lost in all the numbers we were talking about.
It was Tom, wasn't it? Tom's explanation was even better than mine.
I think he used every combination that's possible.
It was very number one. National League playoff thing. Oh no, it's just telling me where it's going to be staged. Bruce, you weren't on the show with Jason and Andrew and Debbie. What was your thought process on it and what they said? And
I've listened to a bit of it.
oh my god,
I
what
do
is this?
What
is this?
I haven't been for a run since, and it's my running music, my podcasts.
Well, stop being so fat and get out and run and listen to the podcast.
Yeah, I need to run that kebab off, definitely. It was good though. I like it. I think that it's always interesting to hear them talk and see what they've got to say. I thought it was interesting what Jason said about the trolls and things like that, and that goes back to what I just said to you a minute ago, that I bet if you looked at his timeline, nobody likes to receive something like that, and especially when you're trying to do your best and you've invested in your hometown club. Nobody wants to see that, but I see positive tweets to Jason and Andrew and Debbie all the time. But obviously, but it's the ones when people criticise you that stand out. Unfortunately, it's human nature, I think. So hopefully they don't pay any attention to that, because some of the stuff that you see people requesting, not even criticising, but the stuff people request is absolutely stupid some of the time. But then, like I say, it's probably a dozen people across our fan base. That's all. It's not a great number. So I think you've got to learn. Can you imagine being in in the public eye? Being a real sort of a blue tick on social media. It must be horrendous reading through your timeline.
Yeah, I mean, negative comments always get the spotlight, don't they? Because they breed a more emotional reaction. So you've always got to notice the negative more than the.
Yeah, you don't want to be an enabler for negativity, do you?
No.
No, but I do see, you see people all the time, don't you, thanking them for what they're doing, and you're doing a cracking job, and you see that on their timeline. So hopefully that's what they're paying attention to, and but as you say, Jason mentioned it, so it's obviously something that does. It's hard to ignore.
There was a bloke yesterday who got kicked out about sort of midway through the second half, who I swore was Andrew Pettit. It wasn't, and just to make it clear, but he definitely looked at a sideways glance, Andrew Pettit, and I knew that he was there, and I was like, "Is Andrew Pettit kicking off with the steward?" Like, proper. It was quite.
That would have been what was you waiting for? Jason to come over the barrier and start wrestling with the steward to try and get him back in the stand.
Debbie with that inflatable seagull that she took along, sort of bashing on the head as well.
Someone trying to deconstruct a flag somewhere.
Yeah, exactly. I'll tell you something. Luke Walsh, who does the Shaman Talks podcast, asks if we're fearful of playing Halifax in the playoffs. I'll be honest, Luke. My preferred run would be Chesterfield at home and then Halifax away. And I mean Halifax away because I reckon we could absolutely pack that stadium.
Don't you think they would only give us that side stand again? And they'd rather have the ground half empty than let us mob up and have as many fans as them.
Well, they can do it as much as you want, but I can put on a very good Yorkshire accent.
I have a Yorkshire accent, so
you are Yorkshire exiles, aren't you? You could, like you say, you've got an address down south, so you could pass for anything.
As long as I can just say the word "how much" when they give me my ticket, I'm in. You pass your test.
Just walk around going "hey up" to everybody, you'll be fine.
Yeah, hey up, how much? Have you seen our posh bit in the middle? Yeah, it's really nice. I'd love it. Like that Halifax, we'd ram it 4,000 or 5,000, I'd imagine, would go, and they'd be really up for it. And the time, and I know it's going to kick us in the arse, but the two games we've played Halifax, I'm not concerned with how they play. Like we were the better team in both games.
Yeah, I think I said to you yesterday, obviously I've not seen a lot of Halifax, but the bits I have seen, I'm not impressed with. But obviously they must be good because of where they are. But from what I have seen, no, I wouldn't be fearful playing Halifax. But then again, in any one-off game,
Yeah, a shit can happen.
I don't want to go to Solihull again.
No, the worst run is Solihull and then Wrexham.
Solihull have been one of the best teams we've played this season. And again, the way that they play has not suited the way that we play, because at their place, it was one of our worst performances of the season. And at home, the first 15, 20 minutes, we couldn't live with them.
Do you not think we're due one against them, though?
I'd rather not risk
it from that point of view, yeah. But if you look at that
no, but I know what you mean.
Three times.
Oh, if somebody comes to, if you're if somebody comes and they're on you'd rather have a team that's on a 8-game winning streak that come to Blundell Park, wouldn't you, than a team that's on an 8-game losing streak, because you know what comes next.
So let's have a look as well. If we're here as well next season, let's have a look at who's joining us. So in terms of the National League North, it looks like Gateshead are coming up and joining us. So they might be joining us in their massive 25,000 seater stadium with their 25,000 fans. And then after that, it looks like one of Brackley, Fylde, Kidderminster, Chorley, and York or Boston. Boston lost yesterday, so they've taken a bit of a playoff knock. Three coming up from the north, and one coming up from the south.
Oh, I swear you need Tom in it.
Yeah, I don't know.
Tom would know.
National League South. Let's have a look at that one. That will tell us a bit. This just giving me the National League North table. That's not helpful anyway. Maidstone were promoted yesterday. They're a team in Kent, if anybody doesn't know.
That's nice to have them back in the well, they're not in the league, but have them back further up the pyramid than they have been in a long time. They used to be in the Football League in the late 80s, early 90s, and then I think they went bust. But that'll be one for me. It's only around the corner from Claire's family, so I'll be booking as soon as the fixtures are out. We'll be booking in at Auntie Serena's for the weekend.
And then after that, it's one of Dorking Wanderers, who have a plastic pitch and are a bit of a money team.
Aren't they the ones that are always on TikTok as well?
Oh, I don't know, but they're a decent setup. And then Dartford, where we've been before, Ebbsfleet, Oxford City, or Eastbourne. So there is one of those that will go up and join us. And then obviously the table up has been already sorted, and Scunthorpe United are relegated with the joint worst points total in the Football League ever. So congratulations to them. They equalised yesterday against Hartlepool, which meant they were joint now with Luton with the same amount of points. Luton, though, of course, had a minus 30 points deduction at the start of the season compared to Scunthorpe.
Love it.
I'm quite pleased. I know a lot of people wanted to see Stevenage get relegated, but
I do.
From a travelling supporters point of view, Oldham and Scunny, two northern-based teams, is pretty decent for us in the league. Two places that are fairly easy to get to.
And considering it's going to be, at least, if it's not us, then it's going to be a northern team that gets up as well. So you'll lose one of Stockport or Wrexham, and then it'll be another northern team. So at least we're replacing them with, because I mean I love it obviously, but it's not fair on you lot.
It'd be nice to see. I'd like to see York come back up and go to their new ground.
Yeah, that'd be good. I'd like that.
York could be a good trip.
I don't know. It doesn't give me the divisions on this of who gets in the playoffs and who goes up.
Alex, we haven't even got a clue what goes on in our own league. Don't start looking. We're not going.
Could you imagine? I feel sorry for Scunny fans when they're going to have to look at the relegation stuff next season, because I have no idea what happens. Like, what does happen? Like, what happens if every team is northern that gets relegated? Do they just rejig the leagues?
Are you assuming the National League know what happens either?
Well, considering they didn't book Wembley Stadium, probably not. It's a bit of a joke, really.
I hope if Scunny go straight through the division, they put them in the Conference South.
Yeah, just to piss them off. And I can go along every time. Like, they'll be playing like Hartney Whitney, which is like this really posh place between Reading and Guildford. They do a cracking burger at least, but it's very sort of Surrey Mums type place. And they go there and there's 30 people. I'll go along with me Keeper shaped banner.
Don't you think, just to change the subject, don't you think Keith Hill gets more Holloway with every interview?
He really does, doesn't he?
He's like, I want to build a squad that's capable of promotion. I mean, I know you've got to say that, but he's working with Swan, whose family have pulled the plug, and there's no, Swan they were talking about these owners that they were whining and dining the other week, weren't they? But they reckon that to pay him off completely and own the ground, they've got to pay 11 million for Scunny that have just been relegated to the National League.
Yeah, absolutely. And you got I assume it was Alex.
What land's he living in?
Was it?
He's in bloody Cloud Cuckoo land, that bloke, isn't he?
Absolutely.
I think he divides their fan base as well, doesn't he? Some of them are like, in Hill we trust, and others are going, yeah, he's won 2 games out of 28 or something.
He's I don't know. I just think that I don't. Yeah, BB says, Jesus, that man swallowed every management workshop manual written. John Lewis says Gloucester is somehow in Conference North, which must be delightful for them. It's I don't want to be a Scunny fan at the moment. Look, we might even get them on at some point so we can laugh at them for 40 minutes, but also find out a little bit more about what's going on. Is Keith Harry Hill's brother?
Do you know the comparisons from ourselves are quite clear, actually. Quite a look at how things might have turned out if we hadn't have had a takeover. So
yeah, absolutely. And even if we don't get promoted, look, I said playoffs were the aim this season. We've already got there. I would say that's brilliant, great stuff. We can build on it. We do miss people up front, but we've come down as the worst team in the National League, the Football League last year. We're already competing at a higher level with clubs that have got an infinitely bigger budget in Wrexham and Stockport and have beaten them both this season at one point or other. I think we've got to be aware of where we are. We're building. All the signs would suggest as well that the players you'd want to keep for next season are at least in advanced talks or have signed and they're waiting for them to be announced. So, it all looks good. So I think we're in safe hands.
Did you, apologies for the bit that I didn't listen to on the podcast yet, were season tickets mentioned?
He did take a swipe at me for mentioning cheaper season tickets, and a lot of you out there are taking a swipe as well. But he didn't mention anything else.
I just thought they might have been starting to, I know they don't know what division we're going to be in, but historically our price for season tickets doesn't change massively whether we're in the National League or we go up into the Football League. I'm just surprised that they haven't started to mention what's happening with season tickets now for next season. And we've still got a feel good going on, and I don't think there'd be any harm to have them on sale early doors and let people start getting some money in the coffers for next summer.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. It's a good opportunity, and I think we should have that conversation because I was talking to Tom. I think I was talking to Ian about it as well. I was like, direct monthly, considering the cost of living crisis that is upon us, I think a monthly direct debit option is the way to go for some fans. And don't look at it as an What we should do though is do something a little bit revolutionary and look at it as not a finance package where you're paying for an item of 350 quid in monthly installments, but look at it as a subscription. We're on a card-based system now, so you can pay 35 quid a month, 30 quid a month, and you get your ticket then, and then it gives you the opportunity to maybe change. Like if you're an older person in the summer and at this time of the year, maybe you want to sit in the upper Findus and you want to see the view and you want to have it in the nice sunny days, but maybe in the winter you go, oh, fuck this for a game of soldiers. I want to go sit in the main stand, and you should have that opportunity to just switch where your seat is. And if you stop paying it after, if you can only do for 6 months, then that's fine. But if you don't pay it that season, then if you don't pay it that month, then your card stops until you renew it again. It should be like Netflix. I think that's the way forward for us.
I think you're probably spot on, because I certainly know for a fact that what everyone spends traveling away from home. I mean, I don't have to worry about home games because we've got season tickets, but you finish spending your money on your away games, and your average family spending probably. I mean, I'm lucky there's only me and Maisie that go if I take Maisie or I go on my own. But, the average family must be spending 150, 200 quid for an away game.
Yeah.
And then, you stop doing that in May, and then in June, season tickets go on sale and you've got to find 700, 800, 900, a grand. But I would be, and I think the finance packages that we've always offered have always been with a third party. I think the club did it one year, didn't it? But generally it's with a third party, and you've got to pay it off over 4 months or 5 months, and it's still quite a chunk a month. Whereas, like you say, if you were paying it over, you might be paying 30 quid a month for one person's season ticket, or 40 quid a month for the privilege of doing that. And like you say, you could build up some. But then I suppose the only danger is to the club is that if they don't get it in quite quickly, how can they budget? Because what if I come out of work or something like that and just stop the payments? Then they're not guaranteed that it takes them a year to get that money in on the flip side, I guess.
Yeah, of course it is. But you can still have the upfront option as available, because then you can buy your seat, and people still like to do it that traditional way. But if you're a student and you're only up there for I don't know, you get quite a long time off, you're back in April, you can then, have April and May there as a season ticket. And if you're just happy for it to be a monthly subscription, and in May and June you go, well, hang on, you guys don't actually have games, maybe that puts some money in the bank for, I don't know, any upcoming cup game, or especially if we get back in the league, you get it gives you your tickets for maybe the first round of the League Cup, the first round of the FA Cup, maybe the group games of the Tin Pot Trophy as well. So all of a sudden, the club are still getting that monthly revenue, which they wouldn't have done otherwise. But it's something that they're far better minds than me. But that's what I would look at. I think people need a bit of a help, and if we can't do it cheaper, which let's face it, the ground is full, they're making enough money. Why would they want to make it cheaper? They don't need to. But maybe making it easier and better to pay for would be a good option.
Sounds good.
No, I've just sorted it out. Ollie Hodson wants to know any news on the new sponsor. I think I know it, and I think most people do as well. Ollie, I think we're just waiting on people to announce it. There isn't much else we can really say about it at the moment. It'll be different. It'll be a new image on the shirt. But it'll be nice to see, and obviously the club is in great hands. Anything else before we go, gentlemen?
Not from me.
Good. Mike, yourself?
No, I'm all good, mate. I mean, apart from BB in the chat seems to have got Netflix and Scunthorpe confused.
Yeah, Netflix are Netflix are 6. I don't think we're buying Stranger Things. I don't think 11 can play up front. But there we go. It's a pleasure to see you all. Enjoy the rest of your bank holiday weekend. Go out and get some sun if you're going to be in a nice sunny place. We will see you all after Maidenhead. Thank you very much. Goodbye.
Open wide for some soccer!